Assassin's Creed the Ezio Collection has finally arrived on the Nintendo Switch, and the question is, should you pick it up on the Nintendo Switch? Is it a good remaster ported over to the Switch? Because you guys know, like, a lot of games that come to the Switch ported from other consoles don't necessarily run as optimally as they should. This question is going to be answered in this review for Assassin's Creed the Ezio Collection for Nintendo Switch. Let's go ahead and get into it.
This wasn't written with your comfort in mind. Nah. Made my decision, wasn't tough to decide. Nah. Me and my boys, we get it done every time. Gotta earn it, you can't just jump in the line. You'll get rushed to the side. I top my division, I've been building since I started. In the parking lot, I parked it. I came in while picking targets. My career cannot be tarnished. I'm a champion regardless. Celebrate, but this is a different kind of lucha party. We are not alike.
Now, before we kick off this video, I want to give a huge shout out to Ubisoft for providing a review copy of the game for Nintendo Switch. And so we're going to dive into it. We're going to talk about the performance, the graphics, how it is handheld as well as docked, and so much more. But before we do all that, make sure you like the video, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and ding the notification bell. That way you stay up to date on all the latest and greatest content that comes from this channel. Outside of that, head on over to patreon.com/MikelCasanova and become a Patreon today. Or, we have channel memberships as well. So either or gets you early and exclusive access behind the scenes and input on content that we have coming on the channel. Outside of that, we got merch on Teespring and TeePublic, so go check that out as well. So all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this review for Assassin's Creed the Ezio Collection for Nintendo Switch. The Ezio Collection consists of Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and Assassin's Creed Revelations, along with the short films that accompany them. The short films added, unfortunately, do not have any additional media player-like functionality, as the minute you touch any button or even the screen, it will result in the films returning you to the main menu. This is something that could and should be fixed with a patch, and I'm just curious as to why that wasn't done before release. It's kind of strange. Assassin's Creed 2 is roughly a 7 gig download by itself, and when you decide to download the other titles, the total file size can ramp up to around 35 gigs or so, which will make having a larger micro SD card a must here. Each game comes with the entirety of their single-player DLCs, and players can also log into their Ubisoft account to access the Uplay Awards, and that were originally available in the original releases, which can grant players additional armors, items, and weapons. The Ezio Collection runs at a surprisingly smooth and consistent 30 frames per second in both docked and handheld modes. Regardless of what all is going on in the game, from bustling cities with crowds to combat in the field, nothing makes this collection of games drop performance at all, which is almost unheard of for a game ported to the Nintendo Switch. Now, there is a trade-off in effect to make sure that it maintains that level of smoothness, and that's in the graphical dips that occur when NPCs, often the minor ones, that has them switching to low detail models, which can be a bit jarring when you put them next to Ezio or any of the main cast. Now, this is not a feature that's exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, as this occurs on the PlayStation 4 version as well as the Xbox One version. So it's just an oddity of how, I guess, the game was remastered. And so that's one of the costs that you're going to have to deal with. Now, while each of the games themselves maintain the silky, 30 frames per second, the cutscenes are another discussion entirely, as they fluctuate in what frames per second is being used, as they can seem to go from 60 to 30 to 15. It just seems to be a variable, frame rate, which may or may not be done to offset the in-game frame rate. Now, when it comes to playing the game, there are some nifty Switch exclusive features, such as an optimized HUD, touchscreen functionality, which only works for the menus, and even HD Rumble. While all of these are indeed great additions to these timeless classics, I personally would prefer they found a way to work back in the multiplayer components of Brotherhood and Revelations, as both of those games benefited from having multiplayer, and it's sad to see that no longer an option. There's also a strange occurrence where there is occasional input lag in all the games at times, no matter if I'm playing handheld or docked with a Pro controller. And, this is again something I think can be patched out and should be, as this is honestly one of the most well optimized ports to the console from any third party publisher. And it's still a ton of fun and just a generally enjoyable experience stepping back into the shoes of Ezio, especially when you can do that on the go. Is the Switch port of the Ezio Collection the definitive way to play these classics? Well, let's be honest, it's a 50-50 answer. As on the one hand, no, if you have access to playing them on the PlayStation 4 or 5 or Xbox One or Series X and S, or even a PC, given how much better of an overall experience it is on those platforms from a performance standpoint. I personally like having 60 frames per second locked on console to be my standard. That's just a personal preference, as opposed to being locked to 30 frames per second, which I feel is a very last generation thing. If, on the other hand, your only console is a Nintendo Switch, or it is your preferred console, and you don't mind the minor performance issues and graphical downgrades and want to be able to play these games portably, then yes, you should get this on the Nintendo Switch. All in all, the Ezio Collection is still some of the best games from both a gameplay and narrative standpoint. And even if Assassin's Creed 2 may not have aged as well as the others, as a whole, this is a solid package that should be in any gamer's collection. And that's it. That's the review for Assassin's Creed, the Ezio Collection for the Nintendo Switch. Why don't you guys tell me what you think in the comment section below. And again, thank you to Ubisoft for providing a review copy of this game. If you want to pick up a physical copy of the game, which includes additional downloads for the other two games, as an insert in it, then I will leave affiliate links down below. But all that being said, I hope you guys have an aloha rest of your day. Sub to the channel if you haven't already, like the video, share it around, consider becoming a patron today and or a channel member. That way you get early and exclusive access behind the scenes and input on upcoming projects. All that being said, I'll catch you on the next one. Aloha. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I will see you on the next one. Peace. Mahalo for making it to the end of the video. And if you found anything of importance or substance that you gained from watching this, make sure you leave a comment down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure you sub to the channel and ding the notification bell. That way you stay up to date on all the content that you get from my channel, from podcasts, streams, reviews, impressions, reactions, and so much more. If you want to support what we do have channel memberships, we've got Patreon, we've got Subscribestar, as well as coffee, which I would love to be drinking some coffee right now, which I am. That's some good coffee. But anyway, we got all of that, and we also have merch on Teespring and TeePublic, so make sure you go check that out. And all that being said, I just hope to see you in the next video that I put out. So hey, see you around.